Oh, it's very hot.
We're just
Absolutely.
buffering, so we're live. Welcome if you're joining us on this very sunny Tuesday evening. And it is here in the Midlands, and I believe it is where our guests are today, where Sarah and our guest is today. I'm so excited and grateful to have Nicola with us today. So we'll introduce Nicola in a moment. She's from the Veterinary Poison Information Service, which you may also know as Animal Poison Line. And I've used this service with my own dog for my vets. And we had a brilliant event with where my vets came and did a charity fundraiser for us. And one of the things they talked about was how good Animal Poison Line was as part of that package and part of delivering some basic first aid to some of my members and guests. And since then, it's been a bit of a dream to get Nicola and the team on. So I'm very grateful that they're here. So just if you don't know who I am, I'm Claire. I run Insight Hounds. I work purely with sight hounds, and I specialise in X-racing greyhounds, and I work online and in the Midlands. I do many of the lives, if you're a regular, with Sarah from Berkshire Dog Training. Sarah, are you good to go?
Yeah. Nicola and I just realised that we're virtually neighbours, aren't we, Nicola?
Yeah, we could have been in the same house.
We could have been, exactly. So I'm Sarah from Berkshire Dog Training. I cover Berkshire and Henley locations, supporting clients with real life training. So whether that's a new puppy, a rescue, dogs with emotions, and Claire likes to highlight, I also love those challenging dogs that love to chase wildlife and squirrels and those sort of things. So dogs with high prey drive, I'll find that really fascinating. So great to be here. And Nicola, so it'd be lovely to hear a little bit about yourself and how you got into working with the Poison Line.
Of course. Well, firstly, thank you both to you, both Claire and Sarah, for inviting me. It's absolutely lovely to talk to you this evening. I'm Nicola Robinson and I'm a vet. So that was my first my vet hat on. I was a vet in practice for 15 years. But I had a real sort of fascination for toxicology. And so I ended up working for the Veterinary Poison Information Service from 2015, which in the UK is the only animal poison centre that we have. We're just so lucky to have it, because in Europe there's only one other, in fact, which is in France. So we're the only one, and it means that vets and owners we can support them if there's an animal, obviously, that's come into contact with something that might be poisonous, and that means any animal. I mean, it's mostly dogs, as you can imagine. They are the ones that eat things they shouldn't most frequently, and they have no portion control, so they tend to eat and keep eating. And then it's cats, and then the most common one after that, and then after that it's lots of other species. But Animal Poison Line started in 2017. So I started that because the VPIS, which is the Veterinary Poisons Information Service, has been going since 1992, but only for vets in practice. So we were here so that vets can call us if they needed us to help them manage the case. A vet in practice cannot be expected to know the thousands of poisons that we know about, bearing in mind last year it's around, I think it was 50,000 different agents we had last year. So we are the specialists in that area, helping vets. And then from 2017, we opened our lines to owners on Animal Poison Line, which is a triage line that owners can ring if they're concerned their pet has come into contact with something and they're not sure what to do. Most of the dogs or cats are not showing signs at that point. And the owners they're very worried often, they just need to check whether they need to go to the vet or not. So that's what Animal Poison Line is. And it's been hugely successful. It's now got probably double the number of calls coming through each month compared to the vet line. So we're accessing many more pets, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think I didn't know about the service, as I said, until my vet put me in touch. But I know my vet used the service to contact you, and knowing that I could have done it myself after the situation is just brilliant. That I think people being aware that that's the case, that they can give you a call at any time, is really, really valuable. So
I think also just to add, it's 24 hour. I think some of the really difficult and worrying times. It's sort of when it's nighttime,
Yeah.
or late in the evening, and you might be at home alone, someone might be unwell, or they might have young children, and they just need to know whether they need to worry or not. So getting that information quickly that's accurate directly, I think, is a real help to people.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
definitely.
definitely.
So how's the who do they get to speak to when they do phone up, Nicola?
They've got quite a large team. Well, we're getting larger all the time because we're increasingly having more calls. So each month our call volume is going up, and we're certainly on the total call volume is around, at the moment, we're averaging probably 120 calls a day, cases a day. That's between the animal poison line and the vet calls on VPIS. So you come through on the animal poison line, there is a consultation fee. So you do actually pay as you come through.
Right.
And then you come straight through to one of my team. And it's a sort of multidisciplinary team. There are vets and vet nurses. There's also toxicologists that used to work on the human side. There are other scientists and graduates who've done bioveterinary sciences. So a great mixture. So we all sort of complement each other. And they're all very highly trained and specialists in this area. So we train them when they come to us. Yeah.
Okay, that's really reassuring. And
yeah, definitely really reassuring. I think a couple of things, Nicola, that I really wanted to cover today is 2 points, which I'm sure we'll cover them both. Is firstly, I think lots of people know, for example, oh, chocolate's toxic to my dog, I need to be aware of chocolate. But there's lots of things out there that are toxic that people maybe aren't aware of or don't know could be toxic. So I think one of the things I'd love to cover today is some of those. And then another point that we'll come to is also some of those myths that fly around about what's toxic and whether they are myths or whether they are reality. But if we go first with some of the things that maybe are in our homes that people aren't aware are toxic, would be a good starting point. Now, I appreciate there's probably lots of things, and as you said, there's thousands of things that are toxic. So in our live session, I don't expect you to go, right, here's the list.
it's the A to Z
but obviously some of the more common ones that you find dogs are struggling with in particular that people may not be aware of.
Yeah, I think that's it's really important that people do get advice really quickly, because I think it's really easy to think when things are poisonous or when they're not, but not everything's got poison written on the box. It's not always rat poison or and bait or whatever. It's going to be, and people know about all those and household products and things. But actually, some of the nasties are things perhaps you wouldn't always think about. So one that always surprises me that is really nasty is mold on food. So certainly in this weather, people often have food bins or compost heaps, or they're on a walk and someone's throwing a sandwich in the bush or something and it goes moldy really quickly. And I'm talking about the really sort of furry mold. And if a dog gets hold of that, they can get neurological signs really quickly. I mean, most cases within half an hour. So you could be on a dog walk. You by the time you get your dog back to the car, it could be showing signs then, and it's such a worry for an owner, especially they don't know what the dog's eaten. For us, we can kind of narrow it down for them, but the dog will start tremoring, so they can have these involuntary tremors, and they can lead on to seizures depending on how much they've had and how big the dog is. And that's the same with a lot of poisons, not all, but most. It depends on the size of your dog, how much they've had. So here we're very experienced on our risk assessment, and we go through all those questions. So mold is a big one. Other things that people might use on their animals, things like we've had cases where owners have used pure tea tree oil on their dogs, particularly on their what we call the ventrum, so the stomach. If they've got a rash or something, they might put tea tree oil, and that unfortunately can cause quite nasty signs, in some cases paralysis of the back legs. So the poor owner has put this on, even a few drops on a small dog. They could be literally paralyzed from almost just the back legs. They're crawling around on their front legs. It's reversible. They get it back. It's just transient, but a huge shock to the owner, who would never know that's an issue. What else do people not know? I think medications, obviously, people are going to be concerned about. I think sometimes people don't know that medicines don't always just contain an active ingredient to make you better. We get lots of calls where owners are worried about, say, a spray or something. In particular, one is vitamin D spray, where they're really worried about the vitamin D because vitamin D can be toxic to dogs, depending on what type it is. But actually, those sprays, the vitamin D is quite safe, that particular type of vitamin D, but it contains often xylitol, which is that sweetener, which is really can be fatal to dogs if they have enough of it. And I think it would be easy to not seek advice if you think it's only at a small amount, the vitamin D is okay. Well, actually, that small amount might be too much xylitol. So medications certainly have that. And other medications that people, I think it's a perception that these are safer, are medications that you put on your skin. So I don't know if either of you know what psoriasis or any of your family have psoriasis, but it's that sort of dry, scaly skin condition, which is really debilitating for people.
Yeah, painful.
So it's really, and they really do want to have a cure to it. And some of the creams contain vitamin D, but it's a very, very toxic form of vitamin D for dogs. So even if we get called and it's a Great Dane and it's had a few licks of the owner's arm, for example, we would still send it in because the toxic dose for that type of vitamin D is very, very small. It's nanograms per kilogram. You can't work it out, basically. It's too small. So that is something that people, I don't think, realise if they put a cream on their skin, that if their dog licks it, they often think it's going to be okay. So psoriasis creams or hair growth creams, like ones that contain minoxidil, or the anti-cancer creams, ones called Effudix, very nasty, can be fatal, and often people leave them and they go to the vets too late, and that can be a real problem. So those are probably, yeah. And also there's a, if I'm allowed to carry on, sorry, I can go on for ages about these. There's a plant which I think people should know about, because again, we get very serious cases, and all these ones I've mentioned so far, we can have fatalities every year. Is autumn crocus. So that is a crocus that comes up in the autumn time rather than spring time, but it's not actually a crocus. It's not the same family, so people think it is. And spring crocus is low toxicity, and autumn crocus, which is a different species, it's got a very nasty toxin. They become very, very unwell. That one, really be careful of. Don't look up crocus online and think you're okay, because you won't be on that one.
I think it's so interesting, because I mean, you live nearby, the River Thames. We are forever having items of bread being thrown out for the wildlife on the river, and I would never have known personally about the mold. And I mean, the wildlife do a great job of actually eating most of it, thankfully. But I know that there's always a few crumbs around, because my two love it, and they can't have bread, so I have to be very careful on that alone. But knowing about the mold, I think, especially where I live, and I know Claire lives near water as well, so knowing about that is really, really helpful, Nicola.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh,
we just lost you.
Just say that again for us, Nicola. We just lost you for a moment.
Sorry, some people don't.
No, that's okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So some people actually give their dogs mold because they think, oh, it's got moldy, a bit of bread, I can give it to my dog, or moldy cream cheese, which becomes very furry very quickly, and they actually feed it to them because they think it's okay, and they don't realize it's so toxic. It's very nasty.
Yeah.
I think, does blue cheese fall into that category as well? Blue cheese, as opposed to sort of, people often talk about giving their dog cheese as a treat, or cheddar or something, but blue cheese is obviously full of mold as well, isn't it?
It is, and generally we don't find too many nasty cases of blue cheese. Really embarrassingly, my dog ate a huge lump of Stilton a few years ago at Christmas. I mean, he was luckily had the right owner, because I could say it's Christmas, you don't need to go to the vets, but really, it was huge how much he ate. And people do worry about blue cheese. We don't tend to get too much of an issue. They probably get tummy upset from that, but we do if it's moldy blue cheese. Okay,
I
so blue
see.
cheese as well goes mouldy.
Yeah.
And so that would obviously be a problem, or very ripe and a bit mouldy. That could we'd be very careful again with that. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Thank you. I think when we were talking there, one of the things that I'm seeing, you talked about creams, and I'm not sure of my age, what I'm being targeted with on social media at the moment, but I'm seeing a lot about hormones and HRT and that sort of thing. But there's been some stuff doing the rounds about how sometimes HRT on the skin can have an impact on dogs. And I think just
Yeah.
again over the years, I think people are spending more time in more proximity with their dogs. So dogs like cuddled up with them more, or in bed, or all of those sort of things, as well as just, oh, your dog just sleeps on the kitchen floor. I think dogs are such a big part of our lives now. That's sort of changed over time, that they're on our proximity, you know, touching us maybe more than they would have been once upon a time. But does
Yeah.
HRT come up for something?
Yes, yes, actually. I mean, the thing you've got to remember is that if it goes across our skin, it's going to go across their skin as well. The only difference is they've got lots of fur. So it has to actually be in contact with the skin. But don't forget that dogs don't have much fur on their bellies. So of course, if they're lying across someone's lap and they've put HRT gel on their legs, then that can certainly affect the dog. And so, especially with smaller dogs, you're unlikely to have a 40-kilo dog on your lap, at least I hope not. But with these smaller dogs, the lap dogs.
My one behind me is 25 kilos, and he'll be on my lap if given half a chance.
Oh, well, there you go. So all those areas which have less fur on, less hair on, are certainly you're at risk. But the key to HRT or any of these hormonal treatments is that it is chronic exposure that causes a problem,
Right.
not acute exposure. And that includes contraceptive pills. So any of these that they are given, because effectively it's estrogen and progesterone, any of them that they are given or receive chronically, which means on a regular basis, and that is why we get concerned about those that might have a sort of they're at home and it's a normal routine that the owner puts on their HRT gel, and they always then sit and watch an hour's TV or something, and they put the dog on their lap. It might be a routine they have, and they're going to be potentially at risk then of having issues. But it would not happen if that same dog had not been exposed to it, but had got hold of the owner's bottle of the gel and had the whole lot. That would be fine. And contraceptive pills, they can have very large numbers. They are very low toxicity. It's that accumulation that is the problem through the skin, unfortunately. But it's a real problem. Definitely, it's just you'll take care not to make sure they're exposed continuously. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think as well with the sight hounds that I work with, especially kind of like the greyhounds, whippets, they've got different fur to a lot of other dogs because they've only got one layer of fur as opposed to sort of the multiple layers. And the whippets especially, and some of the greyhounds, whippets love to climb under beds, under tunneling in and sleeping. So it's quite common for the thin skin, the thin fur or not much fur and delicate skin and climbing into bed every night and sleeping under the quilts. They're, I suppose, something to be mindful of, that sort of breed with the fur and that lifestyle would be something that could be exposed on a regular basis.
Well, also just anything to do with beds. So one of the nasty, I was thinking about the hair growth cream that people would put on if they're balding. If they then lie on a pillow, cats and dogs are so sensitive to it that if a cat then decides to go and lie on the pillow and lick the pillow and is grooming but also licking, they can become unwell from that. So it is or from licking the owner's head, which always amazes me. People let their pets lick their head, but they do. But each their own. But certainly that is a problem if they're licking the head, or even, as I say, just from the pillowcase that the person's been lying on. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's the cream thing. I never realised. You know, when I put a body lotion on, my girl, there's something about, you know, a lotion that goes on my body that she just really likes to lick, and I've never known it before. And you know, it's like making sure that it's all safe and from that perspective. But you know, it's something I didn't experience until I got this current dog. So it's not all dogs, is it, that have that tendency, but thankfully, but it is just, I don't know what it is, because my boy's not interested at all, but my girl is like, as soon as it's like she's got a homing pigeon, I'm like, oh, okay, Sarah's put a body lotion on, and then that's it. So but luckily, making sure that they've got the right products, in there.
Yeah, tip to people that listen is that when you,
I think we just lost you for a moment again, Nicola. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's it. You're back.
Apologies.
Sorry. No. Please don't worry. Just
one of the sort of top tip for anyone listening is that anything that has been is basically been approved for human use. So what you were talking about, Sarah, body lotion, or at the moment probably sun cream, moisturizers for your face, or tonic toners, or whatever, cleansers. They will have been safety tested to the hilt, because they will be too worried that owners would by mistake put their fingers in their mouth, or a child would. They have been really safe tested, particularly if they're on your face or your body. So all those cosmetics and toiletries are much more likely to be okay than a medicated cream, which is the ones we were talking about, which have a medication in them, which can be much more nasty. So there's a big distinction sort of between the two. Okay.
Thank you. That's really helpful to clarify. Reassured me that my little girl's going to be okay. She's been fine, touch wood, but it's just luckily it's only my knees normally that she's my legs, nothing to do with my head.
I think this heat wave lately, we're all like lathering things up more than you would maybe normally in the depths of winter as well. So another myth that I wanted to touch on, there was one recently, and I did see that you put a statement out that was doing the social media that a dog had died from visiting a tulip farm.
Yes, that was a few weeks ago, wasn't it, Claire? That was probably back in April, May time, maybe. Yes. So one of our roles as a poison centre is, our biggest aim is to make sure that everyone has accurate information, up to date, accurate information, so they know what to do, when to do it, what the signs are going to be, what the risk is. So when we have to do something called toxicovigilance. We have to keep an eye on what is in the public domain and make sure that we are happy that it is something that is factual and informative and as accurate as possible. And of course, with social media, you're going to get all sorts of people who write a lot of things that actually aren't true, but are not unsafe. We're not going to get too worried about that. But with this particular post, the worry was that it got such traction, and there were so many people that believed that the dog had died as a direct result of the tulips, that we had to step in on this one. We don't for a while, but because the BBC got hold of it, and they have now changed it, they're reporting, the BBC, since talking to us. It was the fact that this dog had not eaten any of the tulips or the tulip bulbs, and it was being purported that the dog had died because it had got some exposure from rubbing its face, perhaps either some of it had gone into its mouth, or from its paws, perhaps from licking. If that was the case, I can only tell you there would be so many unwell and potentially dead dogs all over the country when there are tulips or daffodils, it could be, or any of these plants. So logically, although of course it looks like that dog died because he was at the tulip farm before it, and it's completely normal. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Is it okay, the sound? Good.
Yeah, all good.
It is completely normal and understandable for people to think that happened and my dog became ill afterwards, and therefore they are related, and it's called correlation. It's not the same as what we call causation, as in that actually caused what happened. And that is what happened in this case. That dog, we don't know exactly what happened. There are multiple reasons with the signs it was showing. The signs it showed were not what we see with tulips, and we have over 1,600 cases on our database of ones that have eaten it. They might not be showing signs, but we have follow up to what happened, and in the literature, of course. And that was such an unfortunate situation because the owner was trying to do the right thing. And I think perhaps the vet may have thought it was the tulips. And we just had to, unfortunately, step in and put the record straight just to bring the alarmist nature of the information down, and just reassure people, don't be scared to walk in a public park with tulips or go to wood with bluebells, because they are also obviously very widespread, aren't they? And in spring, you've got daffodils. And if people felt that all the soil was contaminated, they might change what they do and worry unnecessarily. So that's why we stepped in. But it's a very difficult position to be in. We don't want to upset anybody, but at the same time, it's just really important that people get the right information. So that's why we stepped in on that occasion.
That's really good to know. And I think, like you say, we want accurate information out there, and that's where you guys come in, that it is all accurate. I know just before we went live, we mentioned that Sarah, there'd been some experiences of a drug related that unfortunately has happened, where dogs are eating maybe feces or going out and picking up drugs off the floor, unfortunately, and that seems to be causing an issue. Is there anything you can tell us a little bit more detail about that, Nicola?
I think, I mean, certainly drugs of abuse is, I mean, our largest group of toxins that we're called about is drugs. That includes human medications. It includes veterinary drugs, which is if the owner has given the wrong medication to the wrong dog, or the right, so they've done it the wrong way around, or the wrong way. They might have given it in the mouth rather than on the skin, that kind of thing. That can be quite nasty. Or a vet might have accidentally given them the wrong strength of tablet. That can happen too. Although human medications are our biggest group, about 40% is all these drugs. But of course, within those drugs is drugs of abuse as well. And it's become increasingly common, particularly cannabis. As I talked about toxicovigilance before, we also look at trends, and there can be trends which are seasonal, or trends that just happen to be 1 year. So a few years ago, it was palm oil got washed up on beaches. That was a seasonal one. Cannabis is all year round, but it is a trend that's going up and up. So I think it's something to owners really to look out for. And that this is not saying that the owners are taking cannabis and these dogs are finding it in their home. It's nearly always, well, we don't know. We're told it's always found in the park. Of course, it might be someone's home, but we take it that it's in the park. And we know that the signs of cannabis are quite distinctive. So if an owner has those signs, and they would have to go to the vets with them. This is one that is not worth calling the animal poison line about. If your dog's showing significant signs and you are concerned, you won't be wasting time, coming through to us and us telling you to go to the vets. You'll be going to the vets at that point, and probably the vet will call us and ask us how to treat it if they need to. But the signs, they can become very wobbly. They can look like they are slightly spaced out, so slightly hallucinating. Their heart rate goes down, but that's hard for owners to work out at home. But something that's really interesting about cannabis is that the temperature goes down. So when we're speaking to a vet and the vet's not sure what it is, they often say to us, the dog's come in, but its temperature it came in and it was 37, but it's now gone down to 36.2, and it seems like it's going down again. That is a telltale sign that this is cannabis with the other signs. So it's a real sign. So how low the temperature is going is a sign of how severe the toxicosis is. Okay. So that'll give you an idea of, right, this is dropping rapidly. So you might have to up your treatment to this and this and this. And we tailor all our information to the actual patient. It's not generic information. So cannabis is a problem, and yes, they can get it from eating feces. Our main calls though about it are found in the household or in the bushes on a walk, found on the street, that kind of thing. And the other drugs, of course, we're called about, but just not as commonly. So cocaine, ecstasy are common too, but they would be much more, they are stimulants. So the dog is much more hyperactive and jumpy, looking like it might seizure, as opposed to the cannabis. They're a bit more wobbly and a bit more depressed, but they can alternate with being stimulated. So it's a bit of a tricky one. But yes, they are sadly quite common and can take a few days to recover if they've had a lot.
Yeah, no, I know several people in the area, unfortunately. So thank you. That's really helpful.
And
I think,
vaping as well, that seems to be kind of on the up now. People, almost encouraged not to smoke, but vaping is a better option. So there are quite a lot of vaping out there. Is the risks with the vapes and the dogs?
So with vapes, so that you're right, last 10 years, that's just gone, really through the roof as the number of calls we get for vaping or vaping fluids, so the refill bottles, that kind of thing, compared to cigarettes now. I mean, it's just, it's way overtaken cigarettes. They're not a huge problem, nicotine. I don't want to completely downplay it. Some of the vaping liquids have no nicotine in at all. So the first thing owners should do before they call us or before they speak to the vet is tell us it'll have a percentage on it, and it's a certain number of mgs per mil that we can work out from that percentage. And generally nicotine doesn't get absorbed very easily from the stomach. It undergoes something called first pass metabolism, which means that basically it just means it doesn't go into the bloodstream as much. So the cases are really mild for nicotine, and we don't, there are a few things that our heart rate goes up the instant we get the cases, but nicotine is not one of them. We don't like cannabis or the other recreational drugs, but nicotine is it's a much lower risk, really. But beware of vaping, beware of these snus pouches and things. They've got xylitol in. So again, going back to what you said at the very beginning, the nicotine then doesn't worry us. The xylitol does. Yeah, so that can happen.
Thank you so much for that. So if I was in a situation and I thought, oh my goodness me, I think my dog's eaten something, been exposed to something, licked something, and now I'm not sure whether it's okay, whether it isn't, what would be the first port of call? And obviously to contact yourselves. But is there anything that it would be helpful for me in that moment to be able to know, to inform you? So for example, if I was dialing your number going, I think my dog's been exposed to something, is it useful for me to know like the weight of my dog, have any containers of anything to understand it, any symptoms that they're displaying? What's helpful for me when I come through to you, or do you guide me through all of that when I call up? Or
we guide you, and we find owners better than vets when we speak to them as far as getting the information. I have to be completely honest, because a vet's really busy in practice. So when we speak to a vet and they say we've had a call from an owner and the dog's taken 2 Lemsips and we need to know whether to bring it in or not, and I say no problem, and how big's a dog? And they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't ask that. And which Lemsip was it? Because of course Lemsip, there are about 20 different varieties. Oh, I'm not sure, I'll have to call you back. So speaking to the owner for us is a huge advantage, because they generally have the packet there, the active ingredients. So that is really important. The other things are important: weight of your dog, not for every single one, of course, but for most, that will change the outcome depending on how big your dog is and how much they've had. We work it out. So that is important. Also, when it happened, I try and have a sort of, and how much. So owners don't always know, and that's fine. We're used to that. But we question them very carefully about what is the maximum and what's the minimum of the amount, and what was the furthest time ago and what was the most recent. So it might have been someone's been out shopping for 3 hours, but they came back half an hour ago and they found the dog's had some medication and they're very worried. And we then say, okay, so when did you go out? When did you come back? So we know that's our window. And sometimes we can rule it out as being a problem because the dog's not showing any signs, and actually they would have shown signs by now if it was like 3 or 4 hours ago. So that can really help us timing. But there's no doubt that the packaging or active ingredients is really, really important. And I think the other very important thing to tell owners is don't panic. We have so many people coming through who are so upset and crying. And we really, two things: don't panic and don't consult Dr. Google before you come through to us, because you will really think your dog's going to die, or your cat, if you look there first. You will find lots of very alarmist misinformation, and not saying it's all misinformation. Sometimes you will get an idea, but you can confirm it with us. But there are some times when it's so vastly different what we tell you that it's a huge relief to you. So try not to panic, even for things like rat poison, slug bait, those things that you think, or bleach, these things you think, I'm sure my dog is going to be very seriously ill, 80% of people that speak to us don't have to go to the vets. It is a huge number. So, and you've got time. If your dog's not showing signs or showing very mild signs, you've got time to speak to us. And hopefully we can keep you at home, even if it's something that you think is definitely poison, like rat poison. You've got to remember things like rat poison and slug bait are designed to kill rats and slugs and not dogs. So there is a high chance that your dog won't have a problem after our questioning. We only send a very few in.
So it's just the peace of mind to get the accurate information. And how much does it cost, Nicola, to phone your number? So it's 24 hours a day I could phone. And is the two different costs, one for working hours and one for out of hours, if I remember rightly? Is that correct?
That's right. It sounds like when you called us, you were in such a panic, can't remember how much you paid us, which is interesting.
Yeah. I went to the vet. I didn't know. I went to the vet and got the vet to phone them. And then the vet phoned you. And if I'm honest, it turned out I could have phoned you and spent a lot less money than I did panicking, driving to the vets, having a meltdown about my dog. And then, who got the same advice from you guys that I could have got from home.
Well, I think the problem that you've got is that it is completely natural and normal to call your vet first, and that is absolutely fine. Many vets will then recommend you call animal poison line first so that they can decide whether it's worth you coming in. Okay, so the services are quite different. It's a triage line, so you'll come through and it'll be, we are sort of working hours during the week for the cheaper rate is 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening. And the reason we set those times is because 8 in the evening captures most people when they come home from work before going on to the sort of out of hours fee. So 35, 8 till 8, Monday to Friday. And then all other times, including bank holidays, it's £10 more, and that's all night as well. So it's 45. Wow. Okay. Now, if you do go in, say a few people do have to, we always explain why and your time, how quickly you need to get there, and what we'd give you a rough outline, potentially manage your expectations about whether your pet will stay in or not. But we don't go into treatment. This is not a line for treatment advice. That has to be discussed with the vet directly, because that's safer and obviously more appropriate. So if the vet, if it's a poison they don't know how to treat or they haven't had before, that's when they call the other line, the VPIS line, and when if they need to contact us to get some support. And they often, not always, we have no control over what the vet's prices are, of course, but they often pass a charge on, as you said, Claire, that's bigger because it's a professional fee, because we go through all the treatment advice and they get lots of recalls until the pet's better. It's there can be weeks that we speak to the vets for. So that one is more expensive, and they will pass on their own charge. It's nearly always not the charge that we charge them, they have a membership with us, but they will pass on the charge that they set to the owner, and we then refund the owner the animal poison line fee they've paid, so that the owner's only paying once for our services, once to the vet.
Which is such a good service. And like you say, you prevent so many people having to actually go to the vets, but just I think to have that peace of mind that yes, I don't need to go, or yes, I need to get them there, and this is what I need to do, can be really reassuring.
I think also, if I can just say one thing to help people, is just don't guess. I mean, it's really easy to guess. I think this is going to be okay because he's had a few licks or something, or it's not going to be okay because he's had 400 tablets, when actually the tablets might be absolutely fine and the licks, small amount of something, may not be. So it's really worth, for that amount of money, just checking, because if you wait and see and it is something nasty and then signs start, you've missed that crucial what we call decontamination window, which is at the very start of a poisoning, to try and get rid of the poison, get it out of the body or absorb it before it goes into the bloodstream. So it's just not worth that risk, even if you think it's going to be okay. And also don't try and do treatment at home by giving, for example, people try and give salt water to make their dogs or cats sick, when salt is very poisonous. And we've had cases where we've had to send them in for salt poisoning, when actually the original product that they've eaten was fine, was like the rat poison or the medication was absolutely fine. If they just rung us first, that would have saved them going in with the salt issue. So keep calm, just get the right advice quickly, and as I say, most of the time we can reassure you that it'll be okay.
That's brilliant. It's just fascinating that I think the key points are, if in any doubt, phone, because if you wait for symptoms, sometimes if you get to the point where you're getting symptoms, that's not good. So if your dog has been exposed to something, call straight away. And did you say a very high percentage of people that actually call you don't actually have to go to the vets? But if they do have to go to the vets, it's often quite time sensitive.
Yeah, you just think it's the cost of a meal out, isn't it? And compared to, you know, how much a vet can cost. I mean, it's just, you know, I think we sometimes don't put those things into perspective, do we? And, you know, for that peace of mind, I think it's worth doing. Nicola, can you just check your connection? Because I think there's some back feed on your side.
Just check.
No worries.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah, that seems to have gone. Oh,
is that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. That's lovely. We've just had a note from Steph, who said we were very reassured when Spirit ate a little candle. We even managed a little laugh before hanging up. So one of their dogs ate a candle and contacted you. So it's very reassuring.
Definitely. And real, brilliant that we can use your information to try and help as many dog owners be aware of the resources that are there, because like you say, I think so many people just think the only option is to go to a vet in that scenario, or Dr. Google, but to have a team of qualified, experienced individuals there on the end of the line to tell you what the best approach will be is really reassuring, and definitely great that we've been able to share that information with our community.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that we're better at being toxicologists than advertising. One of the big things that we want to do is raise awareness, but we just trying to get the word out there to the public is hard. So thank you for giving me this platform to at least raise awareness. I'm very grateful.
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you. We will put a link, Nicola, but I'm conscious we've been talking about your services. If somebody had an incident where they needed to phone you, if they did use Dr. Google, what do they put in Dr. Google to find you?
I've got the details all ready to go, Claire.
Yes, interestingly, just put animal poison line, or actually quite a few people find us online anyway, and they say that through AI and ChatGPT that they're getting our names coming up, so they may well find it nice and quickly. But if they just put Poison Line UK, Animal Poison Line UK, or something like that, then they'll find us.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Sarah's just popped it in the chat for us. So a huge thank you, Nicola, for coming on and talking about that. As I say, it's been on my wish list to speak to you for such a long time, and I'm so grateful. So grateful for you to come on and spend your evening chatting to us. It's been really, really informative and really useful. And I think if in any doubt, please give you a call. And thank you so much for coming and speaking to us.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.